First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about tripod mounts. Then we're going to talk about tripods. Then we're going to talk about microphones, both lav mics, handheld mics, hypercardioid mics, and radio mics. So that's kind of a biggie, and I might go a little bit over the 5 minutes on that one. We're going to talk about lenses. We're going to talk about lights. That definitely will be less than 5 minutes. And then I just want to talk to you about some solutions for podcasting, because I started playing with Anchor about 4 days before Mojo Fest took place, with the best intentions of the world of taking the time to go around and talk to some of my amazing speakers. And I didn't get to do any of it, which happens every year. Because the other thing I said that I would do this year, which I haven't done for any of the 3 years for MojoCon in the past, is I said that I would go around and get a photograph taken with every speaker, and I would get one group photograph of all the speakers on each day. Didn't get to do either of those either. But I was running around mental as usual, just, pulling cables, finding adapters, and the usual stuff that's very hands-on as part of what Mojo Fest is. So without further waffle, because we're already 6 minutes into this broadcast, I'm going to hit the start button, and we're going to dive headlong into tripod mounts. So let's start just there. The first thing I want to say to you, because sometimes, people might think that I'm on commission from companies, or I'm working and getting paid for them. So this is a case from ShoulderPod. And ShoulderPod sent me this free, gratis, no cost, because I enlisted with them as a certified mobile journalism trainer. And right now I think there's possibly, 20, maybe 30 other trainers who've all signed up for this. And basically what they do is they send you this little training kit so that when you go out to do your courses, you have all the basic ShoulderPod gear that you need to be able to do that course. Can I just say at the get-go, I do not receive payment from ShoulderPod. This is, I suppose you could argue, a gift which endorses the product, but I also show all the other products that I'm going to show you in a second. Go and do a training course. So much as I do genuinely like ShoulderPod products, I don't promote them because they pay me or they endorse me or anything else. I simply do it because I genuinely like their products. So on that bombshell, let's just talk about some of the products that are available out there. So I have 4 different grips that I just want to show you. I'm just pulling them all together. As you might have seen on that message that I tweeted out a little bit earlier on Twitter, there's quite a lot of gear on the table. So the very first one I'm going to talk to you about is this idea of grip. So I've mentioned ShoulderPod. This is the ShoulderPod S1. It is a very simple little tripod mount, 1/4 20 thread there on the bottom that goes on the top of your tripod. This little bit here twists, and as it twists, you will see here in a second, it opens, and your phone is basically going to sit in there. What's good about it is it'll take everything up to the plus side phones on the market. It's universal, so every time someone changes the shape of their phone, you don't have to go and replace all your gear, which is a problem I had in the past. I used to use these specially molded mounts for iPhones when we did the early part of the Mojo course in RT. Every year that became a problem because basically they changed the shape. The 4 became different to the 5, became different to the 6, blah, blah, blah. So the ShoulderPod is great. I know from experience that basically these guys are very, very popular in the Mojo community. I can say that with confidence, nothing to do with me personally, because at the Mojo Fest Awards, this was voted the product of the year for the Mojo community by the Mojo community. So that's a pretty good endorsement of what they do. They don't just do the S1. They do a 2 other kind of pro versions. There's a 2-hand grip version. So basically this sits on here and your phone goes into it. You can put a light on at this end. This is the R1 Pro. And then they have a kind of a medium size one. Oh, let me just pull it out, which is still in the case, and I really should have assembled. But this is the half size one, which is the R1 Go. Handle goes on there, phone goes in there, light goes in there, or microphone goes in there. Handy little kit. So that's ShoulderPod. Just to give you an idea of price, the actual mounts themselves cost in the region, I think the S1 is about 29 euros, could be 29.39. It's been a long time since I bought them because I bought loads of them when I started doing training after leaving RT. So that's the ShoulderPod. Now, moving swiftly on. Manfrotto, who I will talk about in a minute when we come to tripods, have a grip of their own. This one. And this one basically, it's called a twist grip. And if you look at it, it folds down pretty neat, pretty slim into something that you can genuinely put in your pocket. It clips out into a holding position. It has an actual cold shoe on the top, so you can put a microphone or a light on top of it, which is clever. You turn this little dial at the back, you adjust the actual height of the phone, and then you twist it to lock it in. And there's a 1/4 20 thread at the bottom there to go on your tripod. So this is really discreet, really neat. The one thing it has that the core ShoulderPod does not have is you can put an actual light or a microphone on the top on that cold shoe, which is kind of handy. And then moving on to a couple of other options out there, which basically do exactly the same thing. So last year, a company called LumiCube turned up at Mojo Con, and they had a new light that had just come on the market. I'll show you that a little bit later. But they also had their own tripod mount, which is this one. This is actually really robust. It's actually full metal aluminium with a very robust spring system on the inside of it. And it also has a 1/4-20 thread on the back as well as on the bottom and on the top. So you can add on accessories to the bit of it, which I think is very clever. It's very robust, it's very strong. I quite like this for my 360 camera because I need to mount my 360 camera on the tripod that way to grip the phone so that the actual Insta360 Nano sits up that way. So I like these. I think, if I remember rightly, these are around 50 or 60 euros and they're available from LumiCube directly. So 29 to 30 for that one. Around the 50 mark for the actual twist grip, and around the same kind of price for that LumiCube tripod mount. And then there's this one, which literally only arrived in the post in the last couple of days, which is from Dream Grip, who have been certainly, I think, you know, kind of coming up behind a lot of the more established manufacturers in the last 12 months with an entire suite of accessories, which I'll talk to you briefly about a little bit later on. And this is their basic phone mount. I'm not too sure, will it take the full plus? I think it possibly will, but it's... There's the 5-minute timer. That's pretty good, though, because those are all the ones I want to talk about. So let's stop that, and let's move on to part 2. Tripods. Right. Can I just say that when you're buying a tripod for mobile production, there's only 2 things that you really need to be really mindful of. The first one is, how robust is it? Because there's no point in spending just 40 euros on a tripod, breaking the leg of it after a couple of weeks, and then having to go out and buy another tripod. And then the second thing is, how high does it go? Because a lot of the cheaper type tripods in the market, you're going to just get to this height, which I guess is around the 5-foot mark. But, you know, you're interviewing someone who's 6 foot. You want to try and match the eye line. So you really need a tripod that can get up there to around the kind of 5'6", 5'9" height, which is roughly my height. And that really should be the main thing that you go looking for. Lots of people ask you to go for a video tripod or a photography tripod. Personally, when I do the training course, I encourage people to think like photographers, not like videographers. And what I mean by that is, when they go out to shoot, I don't want them trying to copy what they've seen TV cameramen doing, like lots of pans and lots of tilts and stuff. I'm not saying that there's no place for those type of shots, but they're rare. And the truth about it is you could spend an awful lot of time trying to get a cheap tripod to execute a really well done pan or tilt. So just don't. Think like a photographer. Compose up your shots. Think about the basics of composition. If you have no idea what I'm talking about here, then maybe sign up for the Journalism Now Mojo course that I've done, because I go through all this stuff in a lot of detail to try and encourage you so that you understand the basics of composition in your photography. And that carries over very nicely into the basics of composition in your video. So back to the topic, tripods. Let's just say at the beginning that there's loads of little small portable tripods that you can get. My favorites, both of these in my kit all the time, is this little Manfrotto Pixie one, which they very kindly gave away at MojoCon like a year, 2 years ago, I think it was. Notice there's a shoulder pod on the top of that one, just to point it out. And then the other one, obviously, is the Joby Gorilla Pod. And what's different about this one and this one is, this one is kind of magic because, you know, the legs are bendy, so you can wrap it around poles and all sorts of stuff. And they brought out a new version, which was actually at Mojo Fest this year. I didn't buy it, but, you know, I saw it. It's basically got 2 little extendable arms that come out, so you can put lights on the top of it and then have your phone mount in the middle, which is quite clever. So obviously there is a commitment within Joby to really push the boundaries on the kind of vlogger stroke Mojo world. Just pointing out as well, I don't know if you know this guy, but Casey Neistat, who's a really renowned vlogger, and, you know, for me, he's almost written the textbook of how to actually vlog with the DSLR, certainly anyway. He's also a Samsung ambassador, for the record. He uses his Gorilla Pod like this, the heavier duty one, with his DSLR, and that's his shoot rig. He uses a directional microphone, which I'll talk about later on, and that's his kit when he's out actually doing his vlogs. So, you know, very, very handy, very diverse, versatile, and, you know, both are equally valuable, I think, within your kit. I carry both of them. I guess I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford both of them. I think this is slightly more expensive. If I remember rightly, these come in around the 60 euro mark, and there's a smaller version for phones, and there's a bigger version for DSLRs. The Manfrotto Pixie, there's a pro version of this as well, that when you pull out the legs, they extend out longer, just to double the height on the table. I saw that at Mojo Fest this year. I was tempted, but, you know, you can't buy one of everything. Though I'm probably guilty of that in some ways. Okay, moving on to the more pro-end tripods. So just to circle back to the idea of Dream Grip. Dream Grip do this little small kind of portable tripod, the LWT138ER. Look, I'm going to be straight up with you. I think some of the stuff that Dream Grip has gone are very exciting. For me, this is just too light as a mobile journalism tripod because when I set up the whole rig, the first thing I notice is that it wobbles. And that's something that drives me personally mental. So I wouldn't be endorsing an extremely light tripod. You want to be able to put your phone on there and make sure it stays dead steady. The reason for that, if you don't believe me, do this test. Put your phone on top of a tripod and just tap the leg of the tripod, even just like that. And if the phone wobbles, then you get this jello effect and rolling shutter in your video. That is not good. That is really, really bad. That's what you want to avoid. That means if there's even the mildest amount of wind when you're filming outside, your phone is going to be jumping around the place like crazy. The footage is going to be unusable. All a waste of time. This is the tripod that I originally used at length. It's a Haenel Compact C5 tripod. The only downside of this tripod, if I can be absolutely critical, and I did tell them this, is these locking legs, they turn. And the trick is you should only really turn all of them about 90 degrees because if you keep turning them, the legs fall off. Nothing screams professionalism as much as sitting in front of an important VIP guest and have your tripod disassemble itself onto the floor in front of the guest. So I've stopped using this and I've moved over from the C5, though it is certainly more reasonably priced, to the actual tripod that I take everywhere with me now. This is strapped onto the front of my bag anywhere I go. This basically is my go-to tripod. It is a Manfrotto product. It's not cheap. I think they're around the €240 mark. So just, you know, you're paying for quality in this case. There's a bit of weight in it as well. That means it's not going to buffet around in the wind. This is the B-free tripod. Folds up quite nice. So it's quite portable on the front of my bag or can easily sit into a backpack. Height-wise, I definitely am going to go over on this one just a little tiny bit. Height-wise, it definitely will get me up to the height that I need around the 5'6" mark. It's a photography tripod, not an actual video tripod, though you can get a different head for it that has a little pan and tilt tripod head on it. But for me, that's a waste of time. And then this one I just want to show you because I wasn't too sure. I bought this at Mojo Fest. In fact, I bought 5 of them at Mojo Fest to replace the old tripods that I'd use for my training courses. So this is now the tripod that all the actual people on my training courses get access to. It's got this photography style head, which has 2 different positions. There's a video mode and an actual photography mode on the side. If it's in video, it doesn't pivot sideways. So your horizon line should stay relatively level. It goes that way as opposed to that way. Got me? So what I'm really impressed about this is it's quite cheap. I think I remember this was 110, so half the price of the Pro Manfrotto one that I had. But the beauty of it is that when it's fully assembled and it has a 4-stage leg, so actually it does have quite a good bit of height. But if you look at this, when it's fully assembled, you'll see the height is actually bloody impressive for what it is. I'm kind of going, wow, this could be like a serious Mojo proposition. It's quite lightweight compared to the B-free that I showed you already. But here's the maximum height of it fully extended. That's pretty decent now, right? That is right up to my eye line. That's kind of exactly where you need an actual kind of a Mojo tripod to go. It's pretty steady. They could do one thing, Manfrotto, if you ever watch this, though I know that's incredibly unlikely. I just have 2 comments. The first thing is a counterweight hook underneath here, so you could put a ballast on it to keep it steady for time lapses or whatever would be a worthwhile addition. And the second thing is, and I have to say this because I've gone on to them about this already, the quick release system, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I don't want to get too close to the desktop. But if I open this little catch here, that's the actual mount. Let me just show you up close to what that is, right? So there's my shoulder pod, and mounted on it, there's this little button, for want of a better word. It's their quick release pin that goes on at the end of the actual cold shoe. And then if I put that in, it just clips into place. It's super fast, right? It's super fast. The problem is they're so discreet and small that you can lose them. And I bought 5 of these at Mojo Fest, which is like, not even 12 days ago. I've already lost 1. So yeah, there's that. Maybe one entire tripod head, all included. Maybe a version of their Manfrotto actual twist grip with the actual plate fitted to it would be an interesting solution. But maybe it's just my also lack of care for my gear. Not too sure. Anyway, as tripods, just to sum it up again in a nutshell, the things you want to watch out for is don't fall into the trap of going for something that's super cheap. Because the bottom line is, the cheap tripods and the cheap mounts for the top of the actual tripod, this is the kit that's separating your 5, 6, 7, €1,100 phone from basically smashing itself on the ground. So I have people constantly on the Mojo Con group saying, oh, you know, I found this great selfie stick and this little tripod mount and everything was like €4. And the first thing I ask them to do is shake it and see if the phone falls out. Because the bottom line is those little cheapy pound shop grips that you get that hold your phone, they're not designed to take proper weight. They're literally, they're naff sort of things. And I mean, for pro usage, you need to be able to use this time and time again. You need to be able to take it out of your bag and know that it's going to be able to deliver exactly what you need. So for God's sake, invest the money up front in something that's decent, that's going to last, and is going to be robust enough to protect your gear, rather than, celebrating the fact that you got something for a $5 that's basically going to let you down and probably end up paying 100 times more for the repairs to your phone at the end of it. I'm just having a quick jump into the questions before we move on. Arthur said, I did give you your first tripod, Arthur. Do let everyone know that now, so that they all know that every now and again I give away gifts to people on courses. Great. Thank you. Be Free is fantastic. I agree, Keane. I have to say the Be Free is my go-to tripod. I had a much heavier Manfrotto tripod from way before the whole Mojo thing kicked off, because I used to have a photography studio of my own down in Galway for a while. And that was also a Manfrotto tripod, a photography one. It weighed a ton. It had a 2-stage leg. It could go this high, in fairness, but it really was designed for heavy-duty DSLR work. I still have it. I just don't bring it out with me very often. It's the sort of thing you're going to bring around in the car, not sling on your back to take it out on a shoot. What's this one called? Okay, I'll recap all of them very quickly and then we move on. Remember, you can wind back on the video, so I don't have to keep repeating myself. So the 2 tripods, the one that most people seem to be asking about is this particular Manfrotto one, which has a model number on it called the Manfrotto Compact Action in black. I don't think I'd ever make a host for one of those online tele shopping channels somehow. It's on sale at the moment for $65. Holy God, that's an amazing price. I'd almost want you to buy them and share them over here so I could resell them at that price, because I paid more than that at Mojo Fest at the discounted rate, which is a bit scary. How does the Australian dollar compare to euro? I'm going to set that. That means it's like 50 quid. Damn. Constantinos said that Manfrotto has a very cool video head for the Be Free, although I like the pistol head. Yeah, I like the photography head. I have a video head that will go on to that. Some of the more pro tripods. This one, you cannot change the head. The head is the head that comes with it. That's what you get. But some of the more pro ones, like this Be Free one, you can actually screw the actual photography head off, he says, and then show, don't tell. So you can take the actual, this is the little small ball head that you can take off, and you can put a video head on the top of it. So it's kind of upgradable. Is that even a proper word? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so this is my go-to one, but I fully appreciate that not everyone is going to necessarily want to cough up or be able to cough up 240, 250 euros for a tripod. Around the 70, 80, 100 euro mark for that compact one from Manfrotto, I think is a fairly decent price. What did I drop? Don't know. Great. Moving on. I'll circle back on everything at the end. Whoa! That's incredible price. Okay. So, and Corinna shared it. If anyone wants to order from Australia, though presumably the shipping is going to bump that a bit. I bought a video head but never used it. Well, there you go. Where can you buy? Oh, this is an online thing. Manfrotto are a global brand. I'm not in commission from them either, just for the record. I just personally like their products again. They've served me extremely well. The one thing I will say about it is that if something breaks or if something does get lost, like that little ball head thing that I showed you off that, you can just order those as parts, which is great. Whereas a lot of the other ones, my experience is when they break, that's it, straight in the bin and move on. The red one is 59 euro in the Netherlands. The red one? The red one? Okay, don't know what that is. It's this one. Okay, I'll have a look. Yeah, that certainly is the name of it anyway. Compact Action. Just make sure it's the one that is the higher range, because there were ones that didn't have that. Okay, scrolling down along the list of questions before I move on to the next topic, which is the one that's going to take a bit of time, which is microphones. What a video head, US dollars, where can I buy? The red one is 59, so I don't know what that is. Okay, so that's a quick look at some of the basic kind of tripods. Now look, it goes without saying, there are lots of other brands. Like I did work with BBC, which was touched on briefly at the start of Mojo Fest, and where they're doing this Mojo pilot in BBC. They opted for these kind of Velbon tripods, which if I remember rightly, they paid about 65 to 75 sterling on Amazon.co.uk. And they were perfectly robust. They didn't quite go as high as I would have recommended, but they were seen as adequate for the project, so more power to you. I'm just saying that from my own personal preference, like when I spend money, I tend to spend money with products that I know are going to last and they're from a reputable brand, as opposed to necessarily always going for the cheapest possible one. Hey, Tio, how are you doing? Hello, Caroline. Hi, Tommy. Okay, so let's move on. Microphones. This is wow. This was a big topic actually this year. So I saw a few people going around who were live streaming. They had AirPods. They just had the AirPods in, and they were using the microphones off the AirPods for their audio. Yeah. I guess, look, the bottom line is this. Some audio improvement is better than no audio improvement. Everyone knows the hack, I think, at this stage, that you can just plug in the actual headphones that come with your iPhone or your Android device and basically use the microphone in line to improve your audio quality. That's fine. It's not a pro solution in the sense that, like, I wouldn't interview someone who's a VIP and have the headphone in their ear with the microphone cable hanging down. Maybe in extreme emergencies where I had nothing else with me, but that would be really extreme because, to be honest, I'm a bit of a gearhead, as you can probably guess. So I always have a basic kit with me. And that basic kit will always have a handheld microphone in the kit, a lav microphone in the kit, and if and where possible, a little small shotgun microphone. Those are the three essentials. Radio we'll touch on in a second. So let's recap over all of those for the different types again. Fundamentally, when I built the kits that were originally used in RTE, first generation had a thing called a Fostex AR4i, which had two inputs and was ahead of its time, to give Fostex due credit. They were in there in 2011, 2012 with this device that could take two separate mics in, went in through the actual Lightning dock, or sorry, the 30-pin Apple dock originally. It didn't have discrete control in each channel, which was its only failing, but it was ahead of its time, because even today, the discussion is ongoing about how do you get 2 tracks of usable audio within your actual smartphone. Can I just say, this has come up within the Journalism Now forum on another number of occasions. I think it's an extremely valid question. I think it's prescient that it was one of the hottest topics that came up when BBC was launching the Mojo pilot, because lots of people are saying, well, then it's not a pro solution if it doesn't have 2 channels. Yes and no. Some of the pro ENG cameras have 4, maybe even 8 channels of audio. Personally, I would argue that's probably overkill. 2 channels, though, I accept is definitely the desirable minimum, though you can get by with 1, as proven by work done by Philip Bromwell and other people. When you plan your story, you know what you're doing, you can easily just get away with 1 channel. However, there are a few solutions in the market that will allow you to put 2 mics in. A growing number of hacks out there to allow you to do the same thing. I could, but I can't, share some of the actual research work done by Colin Muir in BBC, where he had different USB type connectors going in through the USB adapter into the phone. But the problem is, when you go down that particular rabbit hole, you eventually get to the point where the kit starts to look basically like ridiculous, for want of a better word. A big USB box slung underneath the phone with the shoulder pod grips holding it in place. It kind of gets to the point it defeats the purpose. Just buy a proper VJ camera if that's what you absolutely must have. However, there are a few bespoke solutions that do it. Now, DPA last year at MojoCon had a thing called a device. It was a little round disc device. One end plugs into the Lightning port on the iPhone. It will work on the USB on the go on Android as well with the different cable. Flip side of that, though, is that it only works with their own proprietary microphones, and those microphones are quite expensive. In fact, if I remember rightly, they showed me a full solution, which was basically 2 lav mics with the device plugged into an iPhone, and all in, that whole solution cost nearly €1,600. For me, even for me, and I spend money on gear, that was a step too far. I've refused to buy an Apple iPhone X because it's too expensive. I'm still on a 7 Plus, perfectly happy with my 7 Plus. Might upgrade to an 8 Plus at some point. However, I have a Huawei P20 Pro, and I'm drooling for the first time ever about Android. And I've been an Apple fanboy for a long time, but I'll talk to you about that at the end. So I think, plan around it. The one thing I would say is this. At MojoCon last year, and again at MojoFest this year, Samsung, Samson, not Samsung, had their Go Mic mobile kit at the conference. And to give them credit, like this is actually, it's a cracking piece of kit. This little box, right, plugs into your phone, and it's swapped cable, so it can be USB on the go as well as Lightning. And it basically wirelessly connects to these 2 microphones. Handheld microphone wireless, lapel microphone wireless. You can operate it so it uses both of them at the same time. Filmic Pro and other apps will see it as a stereo input, so channel 1, channel 2. This is a fairly amazing solution, given the price point is substantially less than most of the single channel wireless solutions on the market. If I was to comment in any way, and I have said this to Sean from Samsung, it would be that the whole kit kind of needs a pro/extremely robust version, because my only criticism of it is that it's a little bit plasticky. It's just a little bit on the plasticky side, which is a real pity, because, as a solution, it's phenomenal. If all the component parts were built into an aluminium case rather than the kind of plastic ABS cases that they have, I'd probably be really seriously recommending this for pro users. And I mean, I know Vitzi, who potentially is still online, is a big fan of this as a solution and possibly uses it on the go all the time. So, you know, certainly it's standing up to the test of time and usage. The sound quality of it is very decent. So if you really, really need a 2-channel and you need to try and keep it within a reasonable budget, but it still needs to be super portable and discreet, then I think the Go Mic Mobile has the advantage in that space, 100%. Beyond that, the mics that you definitely need is you need to have some type of lapel microphone. You've already heard me talk about these, but let me just point it out. So there's the lapel microphone. Haven't even assembled this. This is a Shure MVL lapel microphone, which basically is very similar to the Rode and the IK Multimedia Lav. They're all roughly around the same point, price-wise, I mean. Oh, excuse me for a second. They all come in around the 50, 60 euro mark, so they're fine. They all work, however, on the TRRS headphone jack. So if you are a user of one of the more recent generation smartphones, whether that's Android or iOS, because both of them have started to abandon the headphone jack, you're going to have to get either the USB-C to headphone adapter or the Lightning to headphone adapter to be able to plug those in. When you do that, it does work. It's fine. It's just a little addition and another piece of kit to lose. But there are obviously microphones on the market like Sennheiser. This is their top of the range one, the MKE2 Digital, which has got Lightning at one end. And this is the full pro grade Sennheiser capsule that you know RT uses in the studios. Actually, that's at the other end. So that's a pro piece of kit. I don't expect everyone to go probably and spend 500 quid on one, but that is what's in my kit all the time, and I did buy that. There is a cheaper one called the Clip Mic Digital, which is the one that my wife Fiona uses for her vlogging. It's around 200 euros. It's very similar. It's just a slightly different capsule, slightly bigger, and the preamp is probably a little bit lower quality. But both of the preamps are made by Apogee. Very good quality. And the debate that often happens is, well, you know, why would you spend 500 euros on a microphone when a 50 euro microphone does exactly the same job? It doesn't really do exactly the same job. I've been using this in anger now constantly for 2 and a bit years, and it's still working perfectly. And, you know, I've never had reason to basically ask Sennheiser, could it be serviced or could parts be replaced? I don't know, in short. But these ones, the kind of 50 euro ones, and I've had constant problems with the clip on the IK Multimedia ones. I used to use these on all my training courses originally, and these clips just keep snapping. Like, so, you know, I've gone through like 13 of those clips. They just get broken. And the other thing is that little windshield. I don't know if you can see it, but that little windshield, it just comes off. People are doing their course, it blows off in the wind, gone. So the reason I moved over to the Shure ones, and they're the ones that I use in the course now all the time, is that the little microphone cover has a little rubberized base on it to hold it in place. And the second thing is their clip is more robust. It's I haven't had any of these break, so you know, I'll work with the ones that work best in the field. So that's a lapel microphone. That probably is the first thing you should invest in. Above anything else, whether you go for the 50 euro one, the 200 euro one, the 500 euro one, the wireless one, whatever it is, you should have a lapel microphone in your kit. Because if you're doing proper pro style videos, sit down, formal type interviews, you want it to be discreet. You don't want the microphone to be a big lump in the middle of the shot. You want it to be discreet, but you want to get great quality sound. That's what a lav is for. If you're a radio journalist and you're out in the field and you need to get on the go interviews, vox poppy type stuff, run and gun style recordings, then that's where some form of a handheld microphone is audio kit number 2. You must have, simple as. I would insist that the kit should be a lav and a handheld microphone. This is the Sennheiser Hand Mic Digital. Not cheap, 250 euros, but again, super robust. When you pick this one up and you pick up its main competitor, which is the IK Multimedia iRig Pro mic, this is twice as heavy as that one. Okay, just quality-wise, twice as heavy as that one. The other thing I would say, if you look at them, like they may look similar because they both have these USB cables coming out of the bottom. This has got a very, very clever connector that doesn't pop out. I've lost 4 or 5 of these, and I've heard lots of horror stories from people where these cables have just over friction over time. They've all gone faulty. They're 35 euros to replace that cable from IK Multimedia. I've stopped using them. I've gone for the Sennheiser ones. I can afford to. I fully appreciate not everyone's going to be able to cough up 250 quid for microphones, but when I do a lot of training courses, I need the gear to be robust and to work. So I tend to abandon stuff that starts to fail and go for the ones that continually deliver. Hence why I've gone with the Sennheiser product. Wireless solutions, very quickly, just to comment on it. The kit that I bought for my wireless solution, other than now the Go Mic Mobile, the wireless kit that I use in the field is the Rode Filmmaker kit. It basically is a lav. There is an adapter that will go with a handheld microphone at the other end, basically with the TRS to TRRS adapter, can go straight into your phone or via the lightning adapter. It'd be great if they just did a discrete receiver that would just go straight into the phone rather than that brick. But this is designed for filmmaking on DSLR. It's not really designed for Mojo specifically. Sennheiser have a similar kind of kit, again with this little it's an XLR adapter thing that plugs in, but it's quite expensive, and I haven't gone down that particular rabbit hole for those because, you know, I spend enough money on gear as it is. So that's a quick overview of audio. Now, one other just quick comment I want to talk to you about, which is that if you're a radio journalist in the field and you want to be able to do interviews in the go, there's a few solutions that you might want to have a look at. So one of them is this one, the Rode IXY. Basically clips into the lightning adapter on the base of the phone and gives you stereo XY sound. So it's great if you're doing, particularly in its very own muffler, if you're doing interviews on the go, plugs into the base of the phone. That's a nice solution, but the one that has definitely captured the hearts and minds of the Mojo community, from my perspective, I think anyway, is this one from Shure, which is the MV88. And the beauty of it is, unlike the Rode one, this one can be used if you're doing radio production because it plugs directly into the base of your phone. I can show, don't tell on this case, just to explain. So it plugs directly into the base of your phone. So like I'm doing an interview, I'm going to talk to you, going to talk to me. But if I'm shooting video, and I plugged it in the wrong way around. If I'm shooting video, I can flip it 90 degrees. You see that? So now the microphone is pointing in the direction of the subject that I'm actually interviewing. So it's suitable for both audio recording and video recording, which I think is why it has been so incredibly popular with particularly radio journalists. So that's the Shure MV88. And again, that comes everywhere with me, partly because it comes with a little pop shield as standard, but it also has a kind of a fairly decent pro grade dead cat. So if you're filming outdoors in wind, and you will know that this is an issue with your smartphone because the little camera microphones on the phones are actually really, really prone to wind noise, then one of these makes a big, big difference. Okay, so that's a full dead cat. So that's audio. I definitely went over the 5 minutes on that one. Let's have a look and see what are the comments. I'll go back a little bit to blah, 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 blah. Totally agree. I'll come to iOgrapher and Padcaster a little bit later. I couldn't find iOgrapher. I know I have two of their kits somewhere, but I could not find them. Red version with black. Yeah, I'm sure people would wear the red version if it's a good price. I bought compact tripods for the UC. Good choice. People need to care more about audio. Yes, here, Keen. 100% on the same page as you there, man. You know the expression, I'm sure, again, if you've done the course, you will have heard me say this a lot, that people are far more tolerant of kind of dodgy pictures than they are of dodgy sound. Of course, the only argument against that is social video, 90% of it is consumed mute. But it still means 10% of people are actually listening to the sound, so they deserve quality as well. Hello from Nepal. Hi, Gaurav. I hope I pronounced that properly. Gibran, what are your thoughts on Bluetooth mics? Thank you, Gibran. You are psychic. Bluetooth mics. Coming to that right now. Let's just hold that for a second. Hey, Vyasan, congratulations, dude. Saw you got engaged recently. Very happy for you. Or was it married? One or the other, but either way, congratulations. Does the Samsung Go mic work in areas where there's no internet signal at all? So the Samsung Go mic mobile is what's called a peer-to-peer connection. So basically you have a transmitter and you have an actual receiver in the pair. It doesn't need external connectivity. It connects directly over a wireless connection between the actual devices locally. So it doesn't matter if there's no internet signal. There you go. Hisham, hello. Only for iPhone though. I'm kind of trying to piece that together with the last comment that you said. Maybe put the two of them together so I can figure out what you mean is only for iPhone though. It could be the one about the Shure. I'm not too sure what you meant there. But anyway, there's no monitor on the more expensive one. Okay, now I'm really lost. iRig is headphone monitor. No, that one doesn't have a headphone monitor. You're talking about the old one. This one does not have a headphone monitor. But when it comes to headphone monitoring, more and more, I'm using Bluetooth headphones to monitor rather than plugged in headphones to monitor. Because even though there's an issue with latency, it is a handy workaround for the whole headphone gate issue. I use the Lucy Live Mikey cable. Yes, a few people have said that to me, Len, that the Lucy Live cable is actually decent quality. It's pretty juicy price-wise as well, if I remember. Post it if you know how much it is. I haven't bought one. I haven't had much contact with the guys in Lucy since I left RT, to be perfectly honest. Sennheiser AVX. Yeah. Hi, Charles. How's it going? Yes. So AVX is the name of it. I didn't mention the name specifically, but the AVX is the Sennheiser wireless solution. Again, it's pro grade, but you pay for that brand. Mikey cable will not work with iPhone 7 and above. I'm not sure if the adapter would help. Does it go in on? Okay, so okay, just to talk cross purposes. So Lucy Live is a company that does audio streaming technology. Technic Del Arte is the main parent company that makes the product. They have come out with a hardware cable that plugs into the phone, has an XLR adapter at the other end that goes into any handheld style reporter mic, just to explain. And I'm pretty sure, Hung, that they've done a version or have a version in the pipeline which will be both USB-C and another version which will be Lightning natively. So rather than having to worry about adapting from the actual TRRS cable, which I guess is what this conversation is spinning off into, you will have a version that will be bespoke for Android or for iOS, bearing in mind that the USB-C version must be used with a device that supports audio on the go over the Android USB connector. I fell in love with the toner dual head for radio work. The mics themselves are huge, not sexy, but cheap as chips. Yeah. Is it truly stereo, or is it two microphones going on a mono track? That's the question I have to ask, because loads of people say to me, oh, you know, two of the Rode Smart Labs plus one of their little RC6, whatever it is, going in and gives you stereo sound. It does not give you stereo sound. It gives you dual mono. It's two tracks being combined into one audio track where you have no discrete control over either audio level. That is not a pro solution. It does give you two channels of sound, but only as one recording. And I'm not a big fan of that personally. But then again, I come from a television background, so I probably have a slightly more aggressive perception of quality and professionalism, maybe. iRig 2 is a headphone monitor. Okay. €45 for the Mikey. Oh, it's better than I expected. Lucy Live was never really cheap. Then postage, right? €69 from Len. So clearly Matt got the better deal. We should do this like a shopping channel. Who can find the best price for this product? You have 5 minutes. Come back to us and tell us when. What mic are I using right now? This, you mean, the Madonna mic? Oh, that's a fair question. I didn't mention that. So what I'm using right now is a Samsung, S-A-M-S-O-N, Madonna microphone, which is similar to the one that I showed you as the Go Mic Mobile, but rather than, where is it? Ooh. Rather than connect to a receiver like this, which is two channels, it just connects to a little Bluetooth receiver like this. And this is connected right now to my Mac, but you can obviously, with the little USB audio adapter to Lightning, you can plug it into your phone. It works a treat as a single channel headset microphone. It's just the last time I did one of these, there was quite a few complaints about the audio. I had tried a desktop mic and a few other bits, and I just thought, you know, Madonna mic, best way to go. Hopefully the sound is still holding up well and the batteries haven't gone. No, it's not serious mono. Yeah, so you see, yeah, I know it gives you two sources of sound, but for editing purposes, there's no way to separate the two of those. Whereas if it comes in stereo, in LumaFusion, among others, you can basically pan left and right. It gives you two individual tracks that you can change the audio level on. For me, that's a fair competitor for what you can do when you're shooting with a pro VJ camera. That's great news, but for news, radio, mono, standard. Yeah. Although Keane, I know, is a big fan of having multiple microphones when he's out, even doing lives. He'll have an ambient sound microphone, and he'll have the source microphone, if you like, just to give a sense of place, which is a very good argument, I guess, from a radio journalist point of view. Oakley dokley. I said I would talk about USB microphones, not USB microphones, about Bluetooth microphones. So there are two that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are more coming on the market. There's only one that I'm lucky enough to have. Straight up, full disclosure, this was sent to me as a prototype from Sennheiser to get tested. I had to sign an NDA. I couldn't talk about it for like a month. And then they released or soft launched it at NAB or whatever it was a few weeks back. And they had it on show at Mojo Fest literally 2 weeks ago. So now I can talk about it, I guess, more openly. This little device, I'm told it won't be in Arctic White in the final version, which is probably a good thing, because it does, let's face it, discrete does not really apply, does it? Not discrete. Probably better if it's black or gunmetal gray or something. But let me just explain what it is, right? So this little small box has got a decent microphone, which does apparently now have the option of a little wind cover mini dead cat go over the top of it, which is a good thing. Inside in it, there is a Bluetooth connector, there is a Wi-Fi router, there is a battery pack, and there is a solid state audio recorder. That's quite a lot of stuff to pack into a little small box, right? But what it does is, if I turn it on now, it might screw things up, so I won't turn it on. But when I turn it on, and I launch the app, the Sennheiser app on my phone, I can pair them initially over Bluetooth. So the phone then completely, there's only one button on this, which is the power button. It doesn't do anything else, it just turns it on and off. The phone does everything. So the phone you do this kind of calibration test initially when you set it up, and it measures the ambient sound in the room and a few other interesting things. But basically what it does then is it syncs with the phone. And from that point on, when I hit record within the Sennheiser app, it will then start to record locally into the actual solid state memory in this. And if I remember rightly, I think it was 16 gigs of storage it has. So for audio, that's a lot of storage. And then when you finish recording on the phone, it will connect over Wi-Fi from this to the phone and transfer the full quality sound from here directly to your phone and sync it. And that's the important bit, because this is a discrete off-camera audio device that basically now has syncing technology to line up the audio recording on the phone with the audio on this. Now, lots of people have said, does it use exactly the same kind of waveform analysis that apps like Pluralize use? I don't believe it does. And the reason I say that is, in one or two of the tests that I've done, you can basically start recording where the microphone is right at the edge of the Bluetooth range, which could be 30, 40 meters away from the phone. There's no way that the phone is hearing the sound at 30 meters away. But yet, when you bring the two of them back together, the sync point is absolutely seamless. And what's nice in the app is you have the option of choosing to mix the sound between the device and the actual phone, or go 100% either way. So 100% native sound or 100% memories mic sound. I think it's super cool. I think where this is a breakthrough device is for gimbals. And I know somewhere back there, Corinne asked about gimbals. I'll get back to gimbals in a minute. But this, for me, is a huge breakthrough for gimbals, because so many people have tried to come up with 3D printed hacks that allow you to offset your phone away from the actual motor so that you can get a lightning port or a TRRS microphone cable in. This takes all that crap away. This is a wireless solution. The only thing I haven't tested, and I have a bit of time, hopefully next week I'll do a test on this, is the transfer time from this device to the phone for longer recordings. Like typically, if I'm doing an actual interview for a story, I'm going to do the interview in a couple of different parts, but I'm not going to record more than 3, maybe 5 minutes in a go. For that, this is perfectly usable. If I was sitting down doing a 35-minute to a 40-minute interview, non-stop, single recording, the recording would be massive. I'm sure the transfer time would be horrific. I'm not sure, have to test it, but that would be my sole concern. But I think it's an impressive piece of kit. There is an alternative one called the Instamic, which I haven't had any hands-on time or FaceTime with, but it looks very similar in its kind of its proposal. It's what it does. So I don't know which one will compare price-wise, and I don't know what the final price of this will be when it comes out. Suffice to say, Sennheiser are a professional audio solutions company. They build quality, but you pay for it, so it's not going to be sub 100 euros anyway. I think it's fair to say. Now let's go down through the list. Get news around news live, news ready. Okay, Sam, nice. I must leave. I'll watch the rest later. Bye, Kian. Hello, Catherine. Do you have a link for the Samsung mic? I won't do it right now, but I'll try and follow up this after I come offline and share with some of the stuff that I've done. What's the story on the Mic Me? I'll get to that. Mic Me is in my list of podcasting microphones, which I'll talk about in a minute. Go Mic Mobile is there. Thank you, Corinne. That's really helpful. My gimbal question: iPhone 6 and above, many Androids, there is OIS on the phone. I hear stories of people attaching magnets to the phone to stop the internal OIS fighting with setting software on the gimbals. This sounds right. Is there a better way? Well, you know, in Filmic Pro, if you're using Filmic Pro on Android or iOS, you can turn off the optical image stabilization. It gives you 10% more width in your shot, and it means that the gimbal itself basically will do the stabilization. Same thing says if you're using a phone on a tripod. If you're actually on a tripod and you're not moving the tripod, there's no need for the image stabilization to be switched on. So, you know, that's my probably top tip, if that's even a tip. Can you pair more than one memory mic? Ooh. Thank you, Daniel. It's usually Settle who deliberately asks questions to try and catch me out to see if he can trip me up. And that you know, that's like your tribute to Settle, isn't it, right there? I don't know. But I know a man who does, and I will reach out to Sennheiser and try and get an answer to that for you. So hit me up in the DM, and I'll reach out to them and see what they say. What app does it sync in? So they have their own dedicated app right now. Interestingly, it came out, I think it was whispered before anyway, but it was very much spoken openly about at Mojo Fest that Filmic Pro have basically taken their API and they will be building in the sync feature from the Sennheiser app into Filmic Pro in possibly the next version. You have to ask the guys in Filmic about that. But I think that will be interesting that you can do it all within Filmic. I don't know if it's exclusive to Filmic or they're also talking to Mavis and other manufacturers, don't know. But anyway, there you go. Right, so that's tripod mounts, tripods, mics. Now I'm just going to talk about lenses. I know I'm running ridiculously over time, so much for my less I'll try and do it in 25 minutes, but hey, there you go. I had that conversation with two gimbal users and they said switching off oil didn't solve the problem. What is the problem? And let's not divert the whole thing that we're doing right now onto this specific topic. Maybe bring this up within the MojoCon group and we can have a conversation specific to that. But what I would say is, like, they may have an issue other than optical image stabilization, like digital image stabilization or something. Not too sure, but let's pick it up as a separate thread to this one. But interesting. Lenses. Couple of observations in relation to lenses. Once upon a time, there was like 4 or 5 companies making third-party lenses for your phone. Probably the first, and arguably for a long time, the best one on the market was this system called the iPro lens system. They had their own cases, which has its own special proprietary bayonet mount. The lenses were super good quality, made by Schneider Glass in Germany. Like there's genuine weight. You could just feel it in the actual manufacture of it. And they had this really clever system where basically all the lenses were mounted inside this handle. So you could basically open the handle and all the different lenses were, just put that down for a split second. All the different lenses were basically inside. I don't know if you can see that. So there was a wide angle, there was a telephoto, there was a macro lens, there was a fisheye lens. Like they had the whole gamut. Before anyone else was doing it, actually, this would be as far back, I would say, as the iPhone 4S. iPro were on the market and they were bringing out this brilliant system. Problem is, literally just before Mojo Fest, when I was reaching out to vendors to see if I could get people to come and exhibit, I got it firsthand. Schneider have decided to drop the iPro lens system. And that's really bad news. I mean, I'm glad that I still have the full kit because actually I loved going out using this in photography. But then 2 years ago, a small little upstart that you may never have heard of, basically Zeiss lens with the exo lens range, which these are amazing. When I do street photography, when I do photography outside, this is always in my bag. In fact, this kit is the kit that goes everywhere with me. This is what is constantly in my bag. I just basically put this little Sennheiser mic sideways like that. Ooh, and then it doesn't work. I hate that. Just put like that in my bag so that I can store it without killing things. And the lens cap comes off and flips over as well. So it's quite discreet. But that is my everyday shoot kit with a lav mic and a handheld mic. That's everything in one go. But these Zeiss lenses, I drooled over them when I got my hands on them first, which is well over, I guess, a year and a half ago, nearly 2 years ago. And I was devastated again this year when I reached out to them and asked, like, were Exolens coming back to exhibit at the conference? Exolens have ceased trading, to the best of my knowledge. Zeiss have said that they're not going to continue to make these lenses, that they would only do it with a partner company, that's a disaster. It's a disaster. But anyway, I basically went to Amazon and I bought like 7 of the different lenses that are available from Zeiss as soon as I got the news, because you can now pick them up on Amazon, B-stock, stuff that basically is just being shifted out of shops for like $50, $60. Okay, you're going to pay import duty. You certainly pay import duty here. But like these are fantastic. These are fantastic lenses. Like I absolutely love filming with them. And with the new helium core, you can move the lens over the 2 different cameras on the newer devices. Although, and I've said this to Brandon, it would be nice if you could do it with a click rather than having to take an Allen key to take off the mount and move it down. But hey, things improve with time, I guess. But yeah, beautiful glass. These were really important when we did MojoCon last year because we had a live streaming studio set up with live to air from Teradek. These lenses gave us the option to do a 2 times punch in on our guests while having a wide angle lens to give us the whole studio shot without having to digitally zoom. It was all optical. So the quality was exceptional. These were great. And of course, Brandon was very clever. Like he made this special mount, which turns the 37 millimeter or 39 millimeter thread on the actual helium core into a mount that would take these lenses on it. And that was genius. But the problem is they are no more. I'm kind of devastated and really upset about it because I love those lenses. But hey, there you go. However, there are 2 companies of the 4 who have stood the test of time and seem, anyway, to be going from strength to strength. The first one is, and I kickstarted these way back on the iPhone 4, Holoclip. Now, Patrick O'Neill, who was the guy who founded Holoclip, started the first Kickstarter program and everything else, he's just left the company in the last few months. I don't know how exactly, whether he just decided to move on to new projects or what company is still running, to the best of my knowledge. But they've done a whole range of different little kind of clip-on pop lenses, for want of a better word, and they're good for kind of funky photography. Certainly, I would say the early generation ones, the glass quality was okay. It wasn't amazing. It was okay. Certainly better than the cheap Chinese magnetic ones that you would pick up on eBay and stuff. But then a competitor came on the market 3 or 4 years ago, and I kickstarted them as well, and that was Moment. And this is the Moment case with one of the Moment lenses on it. I think this is the wide angle one. This is the 18 millimeter wide angle one. And they've done a range of lenses. So there's a 2x zoom, and there's a nice macro lens as well, complete with a little macro hood so you can get light in on the shot when you're up close. And these guys seem to really be the only ones who've managed to make a go of it in a big way, because they just secured a new Kickstarter campaign for a anamorphic lens, which will go on their cases. And they raised like insane money, like $1.5 million on Kickstarter for a campaign that I think their original target was like 100,000. So they seem to capture the hearts and minds in the market. The quality of their lenses is exceptionally good, I have to say. It's not quite Zeiss quality. I'm sure that Mark Barros and the team in Moment will want to kick my ass around an arena for saying that, but this is my humble opinion. Like it or not, that's tough. It's not quite Zeiss quality, but it is exceptional quality, and certainly a very close second. And now that iPro is out of the market, and now that Zeiss has basically pulled the plug, it's Moment's baby 100%. The market is pretty much theirs at the pro end, and obviously this push into the filmmaking community with the anamorphic lens is proof that there's a big commitment to Mojo. I just hope at some stage, after begging them for 4 years, that they'll finally get together and come and exhibit and meet the Mojo audience at Mojo Fest at some point. It might be a case of if Mama can't come to the mountain has to come to Mama. That's if Mojo Fest goes stateside or to Canada, which I'm genuinely interested in looking at. But anyway, that's lenses. Why are these companies going to the wall or pulling out of the market as opposed to going to the wall? Well, clearly it's because so many of the new cameras on the market are coming out with 1, 2, or in this case with the Huawei P20 Pro, 3 camera lenses. And those lenses offer the same field of view that you got with those add-on lenses, whether that's a wide-angle lens or a 2x zoom lens or a wide-angle, or a macro lens, whatever. They just, they're building them into the phones now. So is there a need for those third-party lenses? Well, you know, this seems like a really vain thing to say, right? But the bottom line is, when I take this kit out to film someone, they don't just go, oh, it's just a phone. They kind of go, oh, that's an odd-looking camera. What exactly is that? There are times when that actually is an advantage. There are times when actually having something that doesn't necessarily look just like a phone can actually kind of win a little bit of favor and kind of, you know, position you as being a little bit more pro perhaps than someone who just whips the phone out of their pocket with no mics or accessories and goes, I'm going to do an interview with you. But is that defeating the whole essence of Mojo? Well, that's a debate that you can pick up after today. Can I just give a shout out to one other company though? Because these guys have been on the market for, 4 or 5 years. Their big breakthrough was Tangerine. This basically is the Moondog Labs anamorphic adapter. Okay, so it gives you exactly the same visual effect as the product that Moment has just managed to get crowdfunded. And I'm really sorry for these guys, because this is a really incredibly high quality product that feature films have been shot on before. And, they've kind of almost been rolled over by the Moment anamorphic lens movement, which is a real pity. They were there first, and they have a quality product. They've also now got a range of ND filters and other stuff, which, I think deserve more. They just deserve more coverage. And I would love to see these guys at some stage get involved a little bit more actively in the Mojo community, because, we need to raise a bit more awareness about their brand. They do good stuff as well. Pick it up, Mojo.com. Yes, please. What about Smart Mic? Yeah, I'll have to visit that one again. Smart Mic is not on my radar at all, interestingly. Do you work for Smart Mic, Peter Jan Janssen? Just curious. Tell me, please, what is the name of the lens model? Oh, take your pick. I mentioned 4, so I'll just go through them very quickly. The first one, which is no longer available, is the Schneider iPro lens system. The second one, which is also no longer bloody available, is the ExoLens Zeiss lens system. But you can still pick those products up on Amazon at a ridiculous bargain price if you want to invest now. The good thing is that obviously, because Helium is still going with their core, you could be able to get mounts that will be future-proofed, which means that you can continue to use the lenses for the foreseeable future. Charles said the other one was Olloclip, and then the final one was Moment. Moment are popular because they ride skateboards. Moment are popular because they've mastered the idea of talking to the audience as mates. They're not doing straight up, buy a Moment lens. They're not doing that. They have 2 guys who are fairly hunking, funky and trendy and blah, 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 basically doing, yo guys, come with us on the journey today. We're going to show you how we can use our Moment lenses to do this. It's not about buy the product. It's about this is what you can do with the product, which in essence was part of the theme that came up in the whole vlogging, influencer, ambassador marketing thing that we talked about at Mojo Fest this year. People have stopped commenting. Does that mean everyone is left? Or should I just shut up, or what? There's a few more things to talk about. Not a lot, but I'm just going to dip into them anyway. That's lenses. There are loads of cheap ones in the market, in the lenses market as well. If you are going to buy a lens, check one thing and one thing only. When you hold it up to the light, do you get this distortion around the outside of the shot where the color shifts, okay? Because that is screaming low quality product, and that's exactly what I would be looking for. Next up, lights. Haven't got a big selection of lights. Used to have more, really can't find them, but hey, it is what it is. So the two that I actually bring with me all the time, genuinely, sincerely, that are always in my bag. This one from Manfrotto, which is the Lumi. This is the Lumi 5. They have a version of it that has 8 lights in it, and there's a 3 as well. The 8 is obviously substantially more powerful. 5 is fine for my everyday use. It has a throw distance of about 2.5 to 3 meters, functional distance anyway. So yeah, that's in my kit all the time. And then this one, which I bought at MojoCon last year, they've since come out with an actual diffuser module, which I really must buy. Actually, I looked at it. It was a prototype at the time, and I just thought, that's genius. That's brilliant. But what's great about this has, I think, 3 or 4 different stops of intensity. This one has 9 different stops of intensity. Watch this if it turns on. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The throw distance of this in my kitchen is from here to the actual living room door, which is, that's a good 5 meter throw. So, you know, oh, we're back. This is a really clever piece of kit. And on top of everything else, what's cool about it, it's waterproof. There's a little screw thing at the back that seals the USB charger. And this is also rechargeable. That's worth saying, because some of the cheaper ones, you can just stick AA batteries in. Pros and cons, because obviously you can bring spare batteries. You can always connect these up to USB power bank to actually power them on the go on the field. But this is waterproof. You can put this under the water, which is quite a nice little feature. And that's always in my kit. Now, look, there are loads of other, I'll just hold this up for a split second. There are loads of other little small rechargeable stroke battery pack lights. This is this one from Dream Grip, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. These ones are a lot cheaper than these. If I remember rightly, I think I paid like 120 euros for this last year. I think they've come down slightly since. This one is the base version. There is one that actually has connectivity, Bluetooth connectivity to the phone, which means you can daisy chain them. So you can have 3 or 4 of these lights operating as a single wall of light, for want of a better word, and their USB or their app will allow you to control the intensity and color balance and everything on them, which is pretty bloody clever. So that's all I'm going to say on lights, other than the actual flash on the phone is you know, several of the manufacturers try to do the 2-tone flash. So there's kind of blue light and there's yellow light, which compensates the color spectrum base. But they're still very close to the lens, not very flattering to the actual guest when you're filming with them. I tend to only use them in emergencies. If you are going to use an actual light, don't ever let the actual light go below the eye line of the actual guest. Light that shows up from under the horizon is non-natural. They've used it in horror movies for like ever, because what it does is it makes the person look demonic. Right? Don't do it. It's just keep the light above the horizon. Ideally, 45 degrees up, 45 degrees off center will give you this kind of Rembrandt style studio lighting, which is really, really nice. So, you know, a few little tips and tricks. Do the course. Did I say that already? Probably. That's lights. Finally, podcasting. It's like my new little ambition. I'd love to do a little bit more podcasting. I'm still trying to figure out a way that I could talk to some of the people that I missed at Mojo Fest, which is still bugging the crap out of me. But anyway, it is what it is. For the first podcast that I did, which really was just oh, look, this is something new. I'd like to try this. I used the MV88, which I spoke to you about earlier on. Okay, it just clips into the base of the phone. I use an app called Anchor. If you haven't tried it, go use Anchor. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's not new. It's been on the market possibly 2 years, but their latest update allows you to import audio from other apps in the phone. So you can bring in music. You can bring in pre-recorded interviews. You can bring in jingles and sound effects. And basically, it acts like a little mini timeline. So you can build up all these things and then basically just, you know, cue them as part of your podcast. It's brilliant. And then the other thing that blew me away, which I didn't even realize when I did the test recording a week ago, is that if you move over from the app to the desktop version of Anchor, you can actually use their artificial voice intelligence to do subtitled versions of what you've said in your podcast. It creates little shareable videos, which can be formatted to 9:16 square or 16:9, that basically create subtitles for the sound of your podcast. In other words, it turns an audio podcast into a kind of a video text social shareable podcast. Certainly, you could definitely use it for for doing promo stuff for your podcast, which I think would be really, really great. What's that comment down there? I'm just going, wait. I missed the name of the waterproof light. That was the Lumicube, Lume Cube. Lumicube. It's super interesting. No, I am not. Okay, right. Thanks for clarifying, Peter Jan. That's fine. Good to know. I'll look them up afterwards, have a look and see if I can get one to test out. Any good recommendation for gimbals? Yes, we'll touch on that in a minute. Corinne is also interested in talking about gimbals. I just have one more thing I want to talk about in the podcast, then I'll wrap up with gimbals. So I used the MV88 when I did that initial audio recording. The sound was fine, and it's great for what I would call podcasting on the go. However, if you want to do it in a more controlled environment, and my idea for MojoFest, check this out. My idea for MojoFest was to have this microphone on a desktop in a little room, which I had booked. This connected via USB out into the lightning port of my iPhone or iPad, but in this case, iPhone, running the Anchor app. This is a product from Shure called the MV51. It weighs a ton. It literally is like, it feels like a brick in the hand. But this is a really super good podcasting microphone. There are others on the market, like the Blue Snowball. Don't know if any of you have seen this one. Blue microphone, Snowball. Quite big, but does have a nice pickup feel, although I'm a bit worried about the way the head is doing that now. Used to do that once upon a time. There's also, though I've yet to test this actually with the USB adapter, I think I need the powered adapter for this one. This is the Samsung Meteor, which I've used for voice recording out in the field. There's another cheaper product from Shure. What's the name of this one? This is the MVS. It's a little ball mic, just by comparison, so it's a good bit smaller. It's much lighter. It's like a plastic case, so I assume this is a lot cheaper than this tank of a one. But I'm sure the audio quality of it is nice as well, because Shure seem to put a lot of energy into the podcasting market, which is really cool. And then, as Len asked earlier on, the last one that I just want to talk about briefly is this one, which is the Mic Me. Now, the Mic Me is really interesting, because the Mic Me, similar to that Sennheiser product we talked about earlier on, which has got internal recording, Mic Me also has a very large capsule. I don't know if you can see the gold capsule in there. Let's just try and tilt it so you can actually see it in the light. See that big gold disc? That's the capsule. It's massive. So the quality of the sound, the full range of the audio of it is phenomenal. It has a solid state recorder in there. It has a battery pack in there. It has a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connection, same as the actual Sennheiser product. The only thing is, it doesn't really fit on the lapel. But what they announced in a firmware update that was only pushed out last night is that now, for the first time, you can do live USB on the go from the mic straight to your phone or straight to your laptop. So it literally will act now like a USB microphone, so you can use it for live podcasting rather than necessarily using the actual microphone as a discrete recorder and dumping over the audio files afterwards. Though I presume, and this is something we could take up with Philippe to have a chat with him, you could, in theory, literally just record a podcast on this and dump it into the Anchor app afterwards as an import file, which would work just fine. Key thing again, though, is like Anchor are all about, you can just use the phone, it's great quality, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I think an external microphone with a really good dynamic range and a good pickup is probably worth the extra bit of effort and money. That was a lot. Last comment was in relation to gimbals, and I'll make this quick because I've gone over time. So when gimbals started to come on the market, just to explain, if you don't know what a gimbal is, I have one over there. I'll bring it over and show it to you in a second. But what it does is it uses the same technology that's used in drones to keep a camera stable while the drone is flying. Okay, there's 3 motors, and they act on 3 different axes, and then basically no matter which way you hold the phone, it will always keep it horizontal and level, and the actual gimbal will actually do all the movement and work. So it's great if you need to do a lot of run and gun filming. If you need to do a lot of following objects or subjects around when you're filming, it looks great. My wife Fiona did a podcast, or a vlog at one stage about making pizza at home from scratch. And I filmed it with 2 phones. So one was set up as a master shot, and the rest of the stuff was all done on a gimbal to get close-ups and pick off sort of shots and everything on it. I'll share it at the end of this so you can have a look at the style of it. But that's where gimbals are great, where you're constantly moving, but you want it to feel steady, as opposed to the kind of shaky video that a lot of people get when they go handheld with their phone. This does in some ways go back to Corinne's question about stability and image stabilization. But anyway, I'll come back to that one in a second about the light in a second, but just still Katrina's question about gimbals. So what I would say is there is effectively a market leader in the space for drones, and that's DJI, and they use the same technology, the brushless motor gimbal technology that's used in the drones on the handheld gimbals that they make. So they have a range of gimbals basically called the Osmo. There's the Osmo Mobile, there's the Osmo 1, Osmo 2, Osmo Pro, there's a range of them. I just at Christmas this year, actually having worked with Loretta Gavin, who I think you know, Lorraine, having done that Machnas parade thing that she was up for the Sakis for yesterday, I bought 4 of those gimbals, or no, I had one. I bought 3 of those gimbals at Christmas, and I paid €350 per gimbal. And then on the 6th of January, DJI brought out the version 2 of the Osmo Mobile, which was 150. Anyway, it is what it is. But the Osmo 2, I haven't bought one, obviously, because I kind of have enough to go around now. But I have looked at one. Someone on a course recently had one. It got my first chance to play with it. So there's 2 or 3 features that I would say are good, and there's 2 or 3 things that I think they compromised on in order to bring the price down. So the first thing I would say that is good is that they've managed to put a 1/4-20 thread mount in the base of the gimbal, so you can put it on a tripod. That's a clever idea. With the older one, you had to buy this separate kind of lock shoe accessory that goes on a tripod. It looks a bit silly, but can be used as a kind of a desktop mount as well. So obviously I bought a few of those. The second thing I would say is that the new one, it doesn't have the batteries. The old one, you had to be replaceable batteries, and they're expensive enough, like 40 or 50 euros each. With the new one, it uses a USB charging port on the actual gimbal, and you charge the internal battery. And they claim lifespan of, it's mental, I think it was like 14 hours, though I would definitely take a pinch of salt with that. I mean, even if you get 2 or 3 hours usable on a single charge, that's pretty good going. And I would say, though I haven't tested it, that you could always use a USB battery pack, like a phone charger pack, to keep it topped up on the go, rather than just depending on the internal battery if all goes sideways. So those are the kind of pros. The downside is that they've definitely compromised in the build quality a bit, because it's a lot more plasticky, I think, than the original one. The second thing is I've seen a few people fidget with the spring-loaded system that uses how it holds the phone, whereas the older one, it was a dial that you turn to lock it in, which is a bit more secure. But it's still a great product, still extremely popular, and to give DJI credit, like, they're really pushing the boundaries all the time on this technology. If I was to be critical in any way, all I would say is they're probably iterating too fast. So like, I bought the Mavic Pro drone just a year ago, and it was only on the market at that stage 3 or 4 months, and it was replaced inside of a year with 2 new models. That kind of, like, a built-in obsolescence that's that aggressive, that kind of bugs me a bit. I'd like to at least think that the product I bought is going to last for a year before it feels it's secondhand. But that's just a personal gripe. The other company that I think is worth note, there's loads of them out there. There's loads of companies who've come on the market who are basically pushing gimbals, ranging in price from 2-axis ones that might be just, a couple of €100, if maybe even less, maybe 60, 70 euros. But 2-axis doesn't really give you the full gamut. You need 3 minimum, and there are some 4-axis gimbals coming on the market. There's a few adapters and things to allow you to do that, but they're a bit weird looking. All I would say to you is the cheaper ones, what tends to happen with them, and I know this from experience because I bought one called DSLR Pros. It was like one of the first gimbals in the market. It was a Chinese brand that no one had ever heard of. And I used it on a shoot in London 3 years ago with Nadine Damasi from Al Jazeera. She was trying to do piece to camera walking through, what's the name of that lovely market? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the problem is the horizon line started to drift. So in a piece to camera that lasted just 1 minute, where I'm walking backwards and she's walking towards the camera, and in theory it was all going to be a fantastic shot, the basically horizontal axis started to drift, so the gimbal started to spin. And there's no way to calibrate it, and there's no way to fix it, and there's no way to do anything with it, so that gimbal went in the bin. And that drives me mental. So the one thing I would say about the DJI ones is, at least within the software, they have a gimbal calibration software thing that allows you to correct the actual gimbal, including a manual override. For me, that's a big deal. And that's the type of stuff that you need to watch out for. Their main competitor, I would say, fairly legitimately, their main competitor is Feiyutech. So Feiyutech have done a very aggressive push into the gimbal market, and they've come up with a real wide range of different devices across different price points, from cheapy ones that are like, less than €100, around the €100 mark, all the way up to really high-end pro DSLR small camera type solutions, which rival pretty much every single one of the full range of products that DJI do. So if you're going to look at one, be prepared to spend minimum of €150 because you want it to last and you want it to be something you can calibrate. If you can't calibrate it, you're wasting your money. But certainly those are the 2 brands that I would recommend you look at, DJI and Feiyutech. Feiyutech, just for full disclosure again, did have a stand at Mojo Fest this year. They had a couple of gimbals on display. Not a lot, but they had some of their range. But they certainly have, I've noticed a lot of photography stores in the country have now got Feiyutech as opposed to DJI. DJI tend to sell, I think, most of their product potentially through their online stores now rather than through third parties, though they are, I think, in Apple stores, which is interesting. That's gimbal stuff. The one thing I would say about gimbals, though, is be careful, because you can over gimbal things. if that makes sense. If you're filming stuff and everything is moving, it just, it can be overkill. It's like when DSLRs got really popular with fast lenses, everything was this 2mm shallow depth of field stuff, which just gets a bit tedious after a while as well. So there's a lot to be said for giving the viewer like a breath, a chance to just look at a goddamn static shot and take in what the hell is in the scene without loads and loads of movement. In fact, if anything, and I feel like a real old fart saying this, that's one of my personal gripes about so much of the social video content I see now. Like, I'm a growing fan of Instagram stories, though I don't do a lot myself because who wants to put this face on telly? But I do sometimes just think like they're just frenetic. If you look at the sort of stuff that Dan Rubin and a few other Instagrammers are doing, he probably can be for calling him Instagrammer, but he does lots of things. But Dan's stuff, it's very measured and it's mature. I just really feel like an old fart saying all this now. But anyway, I guess the frenetic stuff that I see a lot on Snapchat and Instagram just doesn't resonate with me. But clearly, for the younger audience, the millennials, whatever the hell we're calling them now, X, Y, Z, ABC, whatever it is, they seem to respond to that and gravitate to that, and whatever works, I guess. Strong believer of speak to the audience in their own language, but ideally the person speaking should be of the same audience. That's just me. Rant over. I think I've exhausted all the gear. I just wanted to talk briefly about this, okay? Full disclosure, I didn't buy this, okay? This is a Dream Grip rig. This was sent to me. It was supposed to be on display at Mojo Fest, but it didn't turn up on time, rather embarrassingly. The backstory to it basically is that these guys were going to come the whole way from, part of them is based in Russia, part of them is based in China. They had a stand booked at Mojo Fest and then get their visas in time. So they literally sat rather frustrated, hoping to come and meet the Mojo community. And their last minute desperate attempt to basically have a proper presence was to send a kit and say, please put it on display so people can at least look at it. Unfortunately, as fate would play in this particular one, it didn't turn up on time. It turned up at my home address while Mojo Fest was on, but of course I wasn't here, so I didn't get to look at it. I've only really unpacked it in the last 24 hours. But a few comments, like first of all, it's definitely the first of its kind this way, all the different accessories. I guess it's modular as well, though. You can add on lots of bits. The core rig is this 2-system crossbar and these 2 handles, which to a certain extent rivals the shoulder pod R1 Pro. They have a lens mount system, which is universal. This is on a Samsung S7 Edge, but it can move up and down these bars, which is very much the technology that Beast Grip have been advocating for the last, 5 years. This kind of versatile universal lens mount system. But everything on this kit is theirs. They sell this as an entire single sleeve, including this single handle grip at the back. So it's interesting is definitely the word I want to use. They have a whole solution built into it. Like they have their little mini grip that I showed you earlier. They have this more advanced grip with the lens mounting system. They have the lights. They have their own microphones. They have this. They have the tripod. Like they've come to market with a holistic solution to try and, I guess really get a foothold in there. And I'd say, I don't, because they sent it to me, and it's going back to them, by the way, because they sent it to me to show at the conference. I really didn't know what to expect, but I'm pleasantly impressed. Like it's ABS plastic. These are aluminium. But overall, the build quality is actually really quite decent. I mean, I'm not too sure about the hook handle, although there's definitely benefit to being able to shoot with one of these. They're very popular with DSLRs, these things. This grip, this U-shaped grip. But yeah, I guess I was the one who dug the hole of saying, I like the fact that I can put my phone into my helium core because it makes it a little bit more pro. Does this make it look a little bit more pro? I don't know, you tell me. But so this is the Dream Grip. I'm sure there's a name on all the different component parts, but I haven't really gone to the trouble of learning all of them. One comment I would say though, and this did impress me, is that for this universal mount that they have at the front for the cameras, there's lenses, like that's the wide angle lens, which has got its own kind of proprietary mount. It should be said, it doesn't fit any of the other ones, but that's, I guess for their business model, that's a sensible idea. These feel like really good quality. I've literally only assembled it in the last 24 hours in advance of this, so I haven't really had time to test it or to film anything with it, but I'll try and do a bit of testing, maybe do a lens shootout with all the different lenses. It all takes time. But this little adapter thing they have, it has ND filters, which I think is cool. If you wonder what the hell is an ND filter, it's a neutral density filter. So basically what it does is it allows you to change the actual shutter speed and everything on your camera when you're filming in bright conditions, which is a good idea, particularly for time-lapse and things. And there's a range of lenses that come with it, although I don't know if this is the standard kit or if this is their like super XL kit, but there's a range of lenses. There's a macro lens, and that's a little macro hood for the macro lens. There's a wide angle and there's a zoom. You know, I can't even tell you what the price is. Sorry, I spent probably about 25 minutes trying to figure out all the bits when it came flat packed in a box. But I mean, yeah, I'll take it out for a shoot and see how it does. Again, its biggest selling point from my perspective is that this is universal, that you can move these lenses over the actual lens on any device. Not too sure how it's going to operate with the dual lens systems like the iPhone or the Huawei P20 Pro, but, you know, worth probably having a look at. And then, you know, I can't really talk about mounts without just giving a shout out to the guys from Padcaster and Iographer, who I really should have found the Iographer, but I could not find it today. I just too much crap still in boxes after Mojo Fest. But Padcaster now have a range of mounts. This is the one that I got from my my iPad Mini, which, you know, robust. You could use it as a weapon. It's full hard anamelium frame, loads of mounting points. So it's kind of in the way that Helium has loads of these mounting points around the edge. Well, the Padcaster has exactly the same. But they have, I think it's called the Padcaster Verse, which is a product that was on show at Mojo Fest from a distributor in Ireland. And the Verse basically is, again, it's universal. It will actually take any mobile phone and it has grips on the side. So there's loads. I mean, literally, you know, I could probably spend another €1,000 on gear and still not have one of everything that's out there. I guess to sum it all up, ridiculously over time, in a nutshell, there is a core kit that you need to try and turn, you know, this or this, whether it's Android or iOS, there's a core kit that you need to turn these into really high-end professional tools. That kit should consist of the following. The first thing is get a decent battery pack. No matter which one of those devices it is that you're filming with, Android or iOS, don't care. At the end of the day, when you start using them as a high definition or a 4K camera, it's going to drain your battery. So get a battery pack because you're going to need that in the road if you're filming in any sort of degree of you know, duration or regular kind of filming. The bigger the milliamp hour number, the more charges you get. So go for something that's 20,000 milliamp hours or higher. Rav Power, Anker, these are all reputable brands that make decent high power batteries that will charge these devices 4, 5, maybe even 6 times. And that's part number one. So get a battery pack. Number 2, I would say, is microphone. The sound for me is super important. When you have an audio solution, it gives the full gamut of what you can create with a smartphone. It opens it all up. So whether it is doing radio reports or podcasts or video reports or whatever it is, sound is essential across the whole spectrum. So get a decent microphone kit, okay? Invest in something that's going to last you, that is a pro kit that matches your budget. You really should think about having a lav mic. You really should think about having a handheld mic. If you can go beyond that, great. If you go beyond that, you have the options, like I say, the wireless solutions like the Samsung Go Mic Mobile, in due course, Bluetooth microphones, whatever it might be. But the essentials, from my perspective, are a handheld and a lav mic. Once you've got your mic and you got your battery pack, get a tripod and get a mount. And get one that kind of is diverse, that you're not going to have to replace every year, that's going to last you for a few years, rather than something that's going to be cheap at the start, but is going to be in the trash can in 6 months. All right. So I've mentioned some of my favorites. There are tons out there. Take to the Google. Look for it. Remember the driving forces that I said for your tripod. 1, you want it to be a robust. 2, you want it to be able to hit 5'6" or higher in the maximum height. But ideally, you also want it to be able to fold down so you can get into a backpack and stuff. So 2-stage tripods, generally, the problem you're going to have with those is that they're too long in their folded down state to be really, really super portable. I've showed you multiple grips to allow you to put your devices onto any of those tripods. Lots to choose from out there. Again, you know, I have genuinely and sincerely been using shoulder pods for the last 4 or 5 years. If Enrique would just listen, Enrique, I love you really, but if you would just listen, just put a cold shoe mount on it somewhere, please. Like, really, just put a cold shoe mount on it. We need one, really. Beyond that, lenses, lights, fantastic to have. Maybe the lenses are nowhere near as important as they once were. For my photography, I still love having a Zeiss lens in the front of my device. And I don't think that's going to change for the foreseeable future. But not for everybody, I guess. A light, useful to have, particularly if you're going to be able to film in diverse different conditions like daytime, evening time, blah, blah, blah. But a light is a worthwhile investment, though probably not an absolute priority. And if there's one last thing I could say to just throw into the mix, which I haven't talked about at all, but then I'm ridiculously out of time, and I will again say these were given away for free at Mojo Fest, some sort of portable storage device in case you run out of storage in the field. That's why I was so happy that SanDisk came back this year again, having taken a hiatus last year, and to give out these drives. Like, these are great. I literally always have 2 or 3 of these in my bag because you just never know. And also, there are days when you want to give files to someone where the connectivity might be crap, and you're just going, look, there you go. All the files are on that. Take it away with you. That's it. I'm going to do a last whip back through the last of the questions. And oh wow, I've been talking too long, haven't I? Okay, let's go down through these. I missed the name though. No, I did that. Settle joined. Oh no, I stayed on especially for you, Mark. Especially for you. Yeah, those are cool. Hey, you don't have to get your head around RSS. So Anchor's awesome. Yeah, so that goes back to a point that Len made, which is one of the beautiful things about Anchor is it will syndicate the podcast that you record within Anchor to loads of other podcasting platforms. Except when you do something like I did, where I think I used the word hell, and it got blocked by all the third-party ones, and I'm still trying to get them to allow it to be published in those other platforms. So if you're Irish and podcasting, watch the expletives, apparently, which is a big problem for me. I've got a LumaCube in the higher end of the price range, but super usable. Yeah, it is expensive. A lot of the high-end gear that I've showed you is at the higher end of the price point, but again, if you invest in it, it will last. That's the key difference. So watch this on catch-up. Yeah, thank you. Moran's Turret for podcasts. Yeah, never even heard of it. There you go. Hello, Thor. Hi, Bianca. Any thoughts on the movie? Is when you talk about the movie, I guess you're talking about the new FreeFly Systems movie Gimbal. I saw Peter Stewart, I think it was, had one at Mojo Fest. Did not have time to play with it, which is a bit disappointing. I think Vitzi, if he's still online, also ordered one. I don't know whether he got it yet or not. I'm not convinced about the form factor. I know they're making a big push back against DJI, and understandable because they were there as one of the very, very first high-end drone brands, to give them credit. But yeah, I don't know. I can't comment because I haven't played with it, and I'd prefer to refer from stuff I've tested rather than just give a stab in the dark. Still like a little shake to show authenticity being there during a news event. It depends. A news event, if it's a breaking news event, then any pictures are better than no pictures. But if it's a feature type story, camera shake is just lazy. Sorry. Yes, but waving it around is a sure sign of beginner's luck. Not too sure what that was about. Completely agree on this. Great, thanks. I was talking to Fayetech guy at MojoCon, tried it out, just wanted a second opinion. Yeah, they're good. Experience of it. Talk to Eleanor Mannion. Eleanor used a Fayetech on the collectors. So if you can just reach out to her via the group. That's nice. One of the deal breakers for me on the extra lens MojoCon last year was the lack of universal lens. Once you had to buy a new lens every time you upgraded the phone. Doesn't it fit? Yeah. Are wearables dead for Mojo? I was encouraged by pivot head and clothing to recharge, but the movement seems to stall. Well, Len, all I can say on that quickly, and again, this is just a personal opinion, I guess, is that Yusuf, for instance, was a huge fan of the Snap spectacles and was a big advocate of those at MojoCon last year, and if I think possibly even the year before. I'm hearing they're in decline. Sales have kind of dropped. I don't know. It looks like wearables might have been, the new shiny happy thing that has already burnt out. Part of the reason that we did that theme on 360 stuff this year was because there was an element kicking back towards me. I was pitching the idea of doing a 360 production course, and people were saying, no one's interested in 360. It's already been and gone. I'm like, I don't believe that for a second. And actually, if I can say, credit to Mr. Settle for drawing my attention to this in the last couple of hours. Conor McNamara stuff at the World Cup, where he's using the Insta360 One. Oh my God. Genius. If you haven't seen it, take to Twitter, have a look at Conor McNamara's work and just look at the promo videos that he's shooting. He's using, I've forgotten the name of the features, like something flow, but basically he's shooting 360 video around him all the time, but he's basically pulling out a HD image from it, which you can pan and scan around the whole image. It's genius. So no, 360, it's definitely not dead. Can you fit the Zeiss on this? On what? I'm not too sure. Podcast or for table tennis. A monthly review of new Mojo items, perhaps. Well, there's peaks and troughs, Catherine, and there are times of the year where, coming up to CES and stuff like that, there's always a new plethora of devices coming on the market. The only one that piqued my interest that I've seen nothing about since is Kodak, I think it was. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Kodak possibly, turned up at CES this year with a range of cameras that basically would pair with your smartphone but give you up to 30x zoom lens, which is the one final frontier for Mojo. I still say that. Sony, to give them credit, had the QX range, which have been out like 4 years at this stage, but they used Bluetooth and wireless connectivity and NFC, so there was massive latency between the camera and the phone. What Kodak, if I'm right in saying it was Kodak, what they did that was different is it plugs into the phone's lightning port, and they have said there's a USB-C version being prototyped at the moment as well. That's a deal breaker. That's a big, big change, because it basically means is you can now plug a camera in that has a 30 times X zoom, but has real-time feed into the actual camera. So you can use it for live streaming, you can use it for shooting video, blah, blah, blah. If that hits the market, that's a big pivot. If that hits the market in the next 12 months, as we get towards 5G and much, much faster throughput on the phones, this is a turning point. Last comment, there was a piece of software shown at Mojo Fest under NDA, so I can't mention its name or who makes it, but that piece of software, when it hits the market, is going to shake things up a lot as well. So there's a lot of really positive development and evolution and kind of moving from that storming phase into the real performing phase, which I think Mojo is really coming of age, and I think that's a great thing.